Good morning, guys. Jackie with Famished Farm. How are y'all doing? We are, gosh, I don't even know what the temp is. It feels like it's not even 80 yet. Might be in the 70s. I know it got down into the 60s last night, but it's a beautiful, overcast morning. It's about 8:30 here. I got up and I had my compost. We opened a watermelon last night, and so I had the rind, half the rind to bring out here to compost, so I did that. And I saw my pile of corn stalks that I cut out of the Three Sisters plot a couple weeks ago, so I chunked that up and I threw it on the pile with some grass clippings. I have no idea the combination of, carbon to green on that, but throw it on there, throw some of the finishing compost over it, and it'll be fine. But I kind of got a plan today. I want to fertilize while it's still cool-ish, and then I'm going to set up my chipper underneath a tree over by the fire pit like I did before and finish the chipping. And I've also got this over here. That pile is off the sweet gum tree, and I'm not sure if the branches are too crooked to go in the chipper or not, but it was green, so it's going to be kind of a pain. But I'd like to get through that pile and the pile by the fire pit, and that'll be a good morning's work, I think. So I don't think it's too early to get started. Oh, and look what I found. I had also pulled out the squash plant that was overrun by borers, and this was still attached to the vine in the pile with the corn. So I've got one more acorn squash. So I've got about a dozen, and they're, for Rod and I, this is the perfect size. And we've got some that are babies, even that look like they've hardened up nice. So I think they'll be just fine. So I'm going to take this downstairs. I also did this morning, just checked on my seedlings, and again, my cabbage starts they're just dying before they develop their true leaves. And so I'm not sure what's going on. I've got this thing with cabbage apparently, that maybe I'm just going to have to buy starts on cabbage, which we should be getting close anyway to when we have cabbage starts coming at the big box stores. I hate buying them, but I'd much rather grow them. But sometimes you can't. So I've got beans I put in yesterday. I'll show you that. I'm going to water the seeds that are starting. I've got some carrots that I'm watering. And the beans, I just put in some more pole beans yesterday that were, just a couple inches high. Just give them a head start. They're kind of shaded by a marigold plant, so I think they'll be okay. Didn't harden them, but I think they're in a shady enough spot that they'll do okay. We'll see. So anyway, let's get to work. Well, this day turned out to be not a short day. We took a break for lunch, and it ended up being about 6.5 hours, mainly from the chipping. But here we are with our Alaska fish emulsion, and I've used about roughly a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons for this 2-gallon container. And we are just gonna give everything a good drink here. Then I'm going to come back through and just water everything in. And this is the planter with the the volunteer tomatoes. Those are bush beans that I just put in a few weeks ago. And then behind there, next to another marigold, are some tomatillos that are producing pretty well. And back where I'm getting now along the fence are my raspberry plants that I've decided to move this fall. The next planter up is my peanuts, Virginia peanuts with some carrots mixed in. The one in the front was shaded by acorn squash that I planted later in the season. And then back behind are where I put in my pole beans, and then the new pole beans that I just planted, I've discovered something's already eaten up. So not good. But here we are, just going to, again, water everything in. To the back of where I am now, there are Roma tomatoes that are doing well. And then, of course, along the fence line back there is more raspberries. And then here's my bird bath, and we'll give that a good filling up. And I do try to, every day or so, I take the hot water from the hose and hose that out good to keep it clean. That hot water is almost like boiling, so that keeps everything nice. And then I'm going to just do a little maintenance on my squashes and pumpkins and watermelons there. And here is, I want to say that's a sugar baby, but it could be a crimson. Not sure which variety that is, to be honest. But that was really good when it came in last time. So hopefully we'll get a couple more of those before the end of the season. And right there is where the little tomato or the little pole beans are that I put in that I didn't harden off, that something ate. So I'll probably just direct seed them next time, and we'll see what comes up. And then I've got my San Marzanos back there, and what was supposed to be an Amish paste tomato from the farmer's market grower turns out to be another cherry tomato. So both of those Amish paste turned out to be cherry tomatoes. So once again, I have tons of cherry tomatoes, and I will make pizza sauce with them, if nothing else. If I get enough that I'll do at the end of the season, I'll do that roasted pizza sauce. That was delicious. And that's my little volunteer. What I thought was a cantaloupe turned out to be an acorn squash, and now there is some other kind of squash growing on it that I'll end up harvesting at the end of the day. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull off my tomatillos and any cherry and Roma tomatoes that are ready. The pole beans have just not produced well, and those are the plants are starting to die out. So that's why I want to keep another succession coming. We could eat pole beans multiple times a week if we had them coming in, but we'll take what we get happily. That area right there, that's the pole beans going up over the trellis. It seems like the buds have been falling off that all season, and I just haven't had good production back there. Have you guys had that happen before, and what did you do about it? I just have not researched. I'm basically just thrilled with anything that comes in on this garden, and I haven't diagnosed what it could be, but if you guys have had that problem, let me know. Here I am just taking my nippers, and I'm getting some of the excess leaves, some of the wilty leaves off of these tomatoes. I reach a point during the season where I kind of give up, and I'm at that point about now. Now we'll give our herbs here some fertilizer. I do the lettuces over to the right, and then I hit my grapes, my 2 Suffolk grapes, and I've got a lemon and a lime in pots right where I'm doing now. And then I do have a little bit extra I take to some of the plants in the front yard. Now we are finally to the chipping point of the day, and so I'll get my chipper over to the fire pit, kind of work with this cord a little bit, and I end up having to completely change out this cord. Hubby nipped it with the hedger while I was laid up with my bad ankle, so it's about 10 feet shorter than it was. Doesn't quite fit. We have to pull one of the other orange cords out, but finally get over here and start chipping. And these are basically all ready to go straight into the chipper, so it's fast. My goal over here at the fire pit has been to finish mulching around the rocks that we put in surrounding the fire pit. And after today's mulching, I did finally accomplish getting that whole area done. And I'll just caution anybody else that's using wood chips around the fireplace, just be careful that your fire is out before you leave the area. My nephew apparently had his wood chips catch on fire. So not a huge problem, just be aware that that can happen. So this is going to be a multiple hour part of the day. We ended up doing this whole big pile of branches. Now, I've talked about this chipper quite a bit. You can look through other videos to see where I've kind of given a review on it and kind of maintenance on the blades. And I personally, I shouldn't say we, my husband doesn't use this, but this is perfect for smaller limbs that come down off of our very mature trees. And I cut there, you'll see I'm using my loppers to cut and get a piece that will fit through. The other big pieces, my husband will cut down with the chainsaw, so they're the appropriate length to go into the fire pit. I like it. It's easy, it's lightweight, it's inside completely falling apart. The plastic chute is about toast, but it does the trick for what I need, which is just to keep all of these branches and limbs that come off of these mature trees. It provides free mulch, free wood chips, which I can use in the garden, and I've redone my 2 huge flower planting beds at the front of my house using free mulch that we'd gotten off of all of these tree branches that come down. So it's been a huge money saver for us, and it just works. So I have no complaints whatsoever. And now we're about to the point where we're going to move over to the other wood pile. We'll talk a little bit about that. But first, Rod is going to mosey over and we just chat a little bit about the weeds that are growing up through the mulch here, and he's said he's on it. He'll get that taken care of the next couple of days. So here we are back over by the shed and the compost pile. Now I've found my bag for the chipper because I'm going to be chipping this pile to the right, and I'm going to use the chips over at the fire pit. So I just want to make sure that I'm bagging those so they're easier to transport. Now this becomes much more of a project than I anticipated. I thought that the branches might be crooked and hard to get through the chipper, but what I didn't remember is that there's sweet gum pods on most of these branches that you can see have leaves. And as I'm chipping, some of those pods are smaller and they end up just kind of clogging up the chipper. Like I can't get any branches down into the chipper, so I'm going to have to open it up and kind of reassess. So here's my first bag of chips that are going over, and now I'm coming up with a plan. My sweet gum pods I use for mulch in some of my flower beds, and so I've decided that I'm going to remove all of the sweet gum pods into this pail and then separate out things to be mulched and leaves and other, just small little twigs to go into the compost pile. So this becomes a major project, and I end up getting a pail and a half of sweet gum pods, which I can't remember if that's going to be enough to do the whole project, and I'll show you that project. That's what those sweet gum pods look like. And this is actually our nut gatherer for our pecan tree out front, which works fabulous on the sweet gum pods too. Those sweet gum pods, if you're not familiar with them, if you step on them and you're barefoot, you are going to feel it. Those little spiky things are pretty solid, and you can feel it, the hardness of it through a shoe, but on bare feet, that would really hurt. So we generally have that little pecan basket thing, nut gatherer, if you will, back in the shed. And when those sweet gum pods start to fall off the tree, I use that and then just replenish the pods into my beds that I need to keep the mulch up. So my lilies along the driveway are one of the beds that started with sweet gum pods as mulch. So now I have my system going here. The leaves and small debris that will go into the compost are going into that orange recycle bin. The sweet gum pods go into the white 5-gallon buckets, which I've got a couple of them laying there. And then I just have a pile of branches that are going to go into the chipper. And I kind of just continue this until, this is actually after lunchtime now. I think you can kind of see the change in the sunlight. And it's a project. Now, if I was not retired or semi-retired, this is not something I would do. There is a burn barrel right next to us, and I think I probably would just dump these, feed the burn barrel one day when we're gonna have a relatively calm day and burn this. But no, I have all the time in the world to have fun little projects like this, so that's what I choose to do. So here we are, cleaning up our sweet gum pods. And then I decide to go ahead, and while I'm there, I'm going to pull some small branches that have fallen on the compost pile. Again, this is right below the sweet gum tree where my compost is, and I get branches in the compost pile all the time. So I've started just picking those out and throwing them in a little pile. And then whenever I pull the chipper out, I decide to go ahead and chip those branches too. So here I've obviously fast forwarded, and I'm just about done with all of the separating, so to speak. So that goes into the compost, and I do add some green grass clippings to that later and kind of finish that off. And then we'll just do a quick cleanup of the area and then get to chipping this last bunch of branches. So that was 3 piles, or bags rather, of mulch that went over to the fire pit. And now we're just gonna put the chipper away and kind of get everything cleaned back up and put where it should be. And then I'll show you what it looks like with a little bit of grass debris. Like I said, that was a pail and a half of sweet gum pods, and we'll just get a few more here that I'll add to that bucket from our nut grabber. Guys, thanks for being here today. I hope you enjoy our content and you'll like and subscribe. This turned out to be, like I said, 6.5 hours of work, easy work. Luckily, could sit down for a big part of it. And I'll put you on our next video. We'll show you what we end up doing with all of those sweet gum pods, so you can see the final product there. And look at me, I wore my ear protection the entire day long. Hubby has it put in a little Ziploc bag, which is nice. There won't be any spiders waiting to surprise me. So anyway, guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. And please leave us a comment. Let us know what you're doing in your garden. And thanks for being here.